What's up, guys? Welcome back to Black Anvil Jiu-Jitsu Company. I'm Brandon, your resident black belt, and today is Friday. And on Fridays, we talk about MMA, combat sports, and current events. We're about a week away from UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi, and it looks like it's forming up to be probably the best card of the year, in my opinion. 2 title fights, and then a third fight that could be, for sure, a fight night main event, and maybe even a pay-per-view main event on its own. Let's start there and let's work our way up the card. Okay, guys, fight number 1. Let's talk about what's on the line for each guy. Sean O'Malley, fighting number 1 guy. This is the fight that can get him to basically jump the line. He beats Jan and he jumps the line. It's as simple as that. You just watched Hamzat do it at 170. He jumped the line. So that's what O'Malley's got going for him. The upside for O'Malley is if he does lose this fight, he lost to the number 1 guy. He can learn from it, get better, and continue to work his way, up through the top 10. Hopefully he will. If he does lose this fight, he'll just admit to it and accept that he lost. It's really old when you hear him talk about the Cheeto Vera fight. Like, bro, that's a loss on your record. Just fucking take it like a man and move on. But what Peter Yan really can stand to lose from this fight, it's not so much what he stands to win, because he really doesn't stand to win a whole lot. Maybe he gets another title shot. I don't know. It's what he stands to lose if he loses this fight. If he loses this fight, where does he go from there? He's going to have to work his way all the way back up. And if he wins the fight, gets another title shot, and loses again to, say, Algeman Sterling, does he become the Colby Covington of the bantamweights? And what I mean by that is, can he beat everyone at bantamweight not named Algeman Sterling? Kind of like Colby Covington seemed to be able to beat everyone at welterweight that was not named Kamaru Usman. So that's kind of where I see that fight going out. I'm picking Petr Yan to win that by decision. I think if O'Malley does win the fight, it will be by a KO or a TKO. I don't think that he'll win a decision. I don't think that he'll be able to keep up with Jan's volume late in the fight. And if it's going towards a decision, I think that fight's going to be about volume. So I got Jan, but I'm not at all saying that it's going to be some one-sided victory. I really think it's going to be a fun fight to watch. So let's move into the next fight up on the card, and that is TJ Dillashaw versus Algeman Sterling for the bantamweight title. So TJ coming off, I think this is his 2nd or 3rd fight after coming back from his suspension for being caught using EPO. And this is basically his legacy fight. If he can win this fight, if he can get past Algeman Sterling, win that belt again, he can hold his head up high. I feel like that's what this really means for him. Is, yeah, I did it dirty, now I did it clean, or as clean as these guys are these days. But that's really what he has on the line. His legacy is on the line in this fight. If he loses this fight, he probably won't see another title shot at 135. That's my opinion. Algeman Sterling, I'd like to see a more complete game from him in this fight. I think he's going to need to have one in order to get past TJ Dillashaw. Is he going to be able to get Dillashaw off his feet? I don't know. If he does, he certainly has the advantage. If he doesn't, you got to wonder what's going to happen. I'm going to take TJ in this fight. I really am. I have a funny feeling. Algeman hasn't really impressed me along the way. He hasn't really made me a fan. TJ really hasn't either, but I think styles make fights, and I think TJ is going to not get taken down and end up, knuckling up Algeman Sterling quite a bit. So that's what I think about that fight. And that leads me into the main event. Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. Now, guys, I keep saying that this is the card of the year. If Charles Oliveira was American and you heard his story, he would be a household name. In fact, if Charles Oliveira spoke English and was a good English speaker in interviews, he would be wildly more popular than he is right now. If you haven't seen his story, you guys can go check it out. He is literally a real life, like, Rocky Balboa style fighter. He got into the UFC really young, won some fights, lost some fights badly, and then just started trucking along again, winning fights, stringing together victories, finds himself the champ after Khabib vacated the title, and then goes on one of the most impressive title defense streaks in the history of combat sports, in my opinion. Not only winning all his title defenses, by winning them all in spectacular fashion against the very best fighters he could be fighting at that time. And I think that's what you're seeing. A lot of the opinions are starting to shift, and a lot of people are jumping on the Oliveira wagon to pick him to win the fight, especially guys that he beat. Like, think about it, Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, what are they going to say? Are they going to say, I think Islam's going to win the fight? No, they both lost to the champ, and they lost in spectacular fashion. So no, of course they're not going to be like, yeah, man, this guy's even better than the guy that beat me. They're not going to say that. Now, is he better? That still remains to be seen, and this reminds me an awful lot of when Khabib really ascended to the elite level of the UFC. You kept hearing the same exact criticisms. Seems like UFC fans have a really short memory. When Khabib was making his way to the title, it was the same stuff. He hasn't fought anybody. He's not that good. He's overhyped, this and that. The one thing you can add to that argument is the fact that Islam has lost a fight. So you do see a chink in that armor where at the time Khabib had never even lost a round, you know? And if Khabib is saying Islam is better than him, which he says, like that, you don't know how much that's humility, but let's just say they're the same. So then let's think, well, common opponents would be Khabib's common opponents versus Charles's common opponents. And let's just take Poirier and Gaethje. Yes, they both beat both those guys. They beat both those guys in spectacular fashion. Which one of those guys took almost zero damage in both those fights? Which one of those guys was able to impose themselves in a more dominating fashion in those fights? It was Khabib, right? So if Khabib and Islam are on par with each other, that's what arguably Islam would have done to those same opponents. But remember, a lot of these top 5 guys wouldn't come near Islam. They didn't want to fight him, and that's why his resume looks incomplete. It's not because it's not because he hasn't wanted those fights. It's because those guys don't want that fight, because nobody wants to fight somebody that's above them in the rankings that's that good, you know? So he basically had to beat everybody they put in front of him instead, and now he's fighting, you know, Charles Oliveira, who should be a UFC Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, just based on his body of work so far. If he beats Islam, wow. I can tell you what, I remember when Charles was a kid and first came in the UFC, and I always liked his style. I remember the tough times he had, at featherweight and then coming back to lightweight. I've always rooted for the guy. I've always wanted him to win, but I considered him a paper champion at 155 because he didn't fight and beat Khabib. But then what he's done along the way has made me change my perspective on Charles Oliveira and see just how good he is as a complete MMA fighter. But I'm still taking Islam in the fight. I just think that it is that guy's time, and then he's going to work his way right back through the division just like Charles did, just like Khabib did. And yeah, so I think Islam's going to win that fight, and I think it's probably going to be by either ground and pound style TKO or by a submission. I think he's going to choke him unconscious. So those are my picks for UFC 280. I think things kick off. The main card, I think, starts at 2 o'clock next Saturday Eastern time. Remember, they're in Abu Dhabi, so it's a time difference. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, checking out the channel. New videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, technique. Wednesday, jiu-jitsu, MMA story time. Friday, we talk current events, fights, grappling events, tournaments, etc., etc., etc. A lot of fun stuff coming up. Nogi Pans, Nogi Worlds. There's new EBI coming. All kinds of fun stuff coming down the pipe. Lots of stuff to talk about. And I'm excited that you guys stopped by the Black Anvil and check us out. So everybody have an awesome weekend, and we will see you on Monday.